Okay, so I'm going into the city for an event this evening, and I'm going to go see Patti Smith speak at City Arts and Lectures. And she'll be in conversation tonight about her brand new book that just released last week. And I'm always fascinated by Patti Smith. I think as an icon, she's incredible. I also think that she just brings so much to the conversation about the threads that tie us together and the role of the artist in the world, in the modern world, and the role that an artist plays today when the world is seemingly spinning out of control. And she's a strong environmentalist. She's a very dedicated mother and wife, even though her husband died many years ago. She still evokes his memory and talks about him and keeps his spirit alive, along with many other people that she has loved in the past, including Robert Mapplethorpe, who she wrote about in Just Kids. So I think that Patti Smith, as an artist, as a creator, has just put so much into the world that including just her presence, her androgyny, her look of disheveled abandonment, androgynous disheveled abandonment. I love all of it. She is not without. There have been things that she's done that's given me pause over the years. However, I feel like the intentions with which she operates in the world are those of love and kindness and trying to elevate the human condition. So I'm a huge fan. I'm very excited to hear what she has to say, especially because this new book is, I think, a foray into fiction for her, which she hasn't done in the past. Most of them have been sketches, observations, autobiographical work. So very excited. I'm hoping there's a murder mystery in here because she loves her murder mystery TV shows, which delights me to no end. And yeah, so I will report back a little later. Bye.
I made such great time that I was able to sit outside, read my Victober book, The Pickwick Papers, and enjoy some food. After the interview portion, she decided to do a little performance of 4 songs, which was absolutely amazing.
Good morning. So I'm driving into the city after an evening with Patti Smith that was just wonderful. It was a packed house. I mean, the old radicals really come out for her. I think I may have been among the youngest in the crowd, but everyone there was just really strong in character. You could just tell that they were the old radicals, the old guard. It was great, especially all the older women who clearly see Patti as an avatar and an icon and an emblem of living your life on your own terms, which is fantastic. They talk a little bit about this book, how Year of the Monkey was started she wrote it in the year that it's set, and that's 2016, and it's the story of loss. I don't think there's a lot
of fiction in there, like I previously thought. I think it's more a continuation. She said that she didn't want to stop M Train. She didn't want to finish it, but she did, and this seems to be kind of an evolution of that, or a continuation of that. She talked about how this is really a look at the loss. So we know in 2016 about the election, but she also lost one of her very great friends, Sandy Pearlman, who was the first person that suggested that she front a rock band in the early 70s. And they had a over 50-year friendship. And I guess Sandy Pearlman created Blue Oyster Cult and did the producing, the artwork, the concepts, the whole nine. So a very interesting person, and also produced some of the Clash. So go Sandy. It was just really sweet. She loves. She's always known for someone for whom time doesn't flow linearly. So she talks frequently about how the dead are always with her, that she doesn't need to go to a place. She doesn't need to look at pictures, that they're with her. All she has to do is close her eyes and they're all there. She can recall them. And so that's something that I've always loved about her point of view, and what she brings to her writing is this sense of immediacy with those that she has a strong connection to. And so Dan Stone was the gentleman who did the interview, and he opened it up with this really very Patti-like expression. He said, "It's been 3 Octobers since I've seen you." And she just lit up. And it was because 3 years ago, the same month, she had come for M Train, and I was able to see her there for that. And she says, "Oh, what a great way to say it. It's been 7 September since we last saw each other." She was like, "This is great." She's like, I might have to use that. So she really thought that was wonderful. He asked her to kind of talk about San Francisco and her relationship to San Francisco. And she has very famous places that she always goes when she's here, like City Light Bookstore, Cafe Trieste in North Beach. She always likes to go to the Japantown, all of that. And she likes to play at the Fillmore. And she joked that they don't ask her to play. She calls them up and asks if she could play the Fillmore. And they asked what makes the Fillmore so great. And she said that all her friends are still there, and she likes to imagine all of them just hanging out. And she said that she goes, "I see Jerry Garcia clumping up those back stairs." And they talk a little bit about what M Train was, and then what this is, and how M Train was really about the idea of home and all the various homes that she has had, and how she carries home with her on the road, and her schedule and her life and her daily practices, and truly how she lives this artistic life. And it looked at different homes that she's had in Detroit with Fred Sonic Smith, her husband, who passed away in, I think, the 90s. And her home in New York, her home that she bought on Rockaway Beach that was hurt by Hurricane Sandy, and then her home on the road. And this really was about, she commented that this was about her desire to be homeless and rootless. And she said that this is kind of the nature of who she is now as in her older years, that she doesn't have anything holding her back and holding her down. And so she can be free. Well, she says, "Well, I do have a cat." So, that was funny. And that she, at this age, she considers herself happily rootless. She's great. And she said that she lives in her head a lot. and so even if she's not physically wandering, she's always kind of in her mental travelings, in her mental wanderings. It talks the other big thing in the book was that one of her old boyfriends and also great friends, Sam Shepard, who is the famous playwright and actor, he was in the decline from ALS. And so she was spending a lot of time with him. They had a great working relationship. He could no longer physically write, and he was a kind of a technophobe, and so he wrote with an old typewriter. And so he had to write orally, and they had to transcribe it. And he had to have people that he trusted, because it's a very difficult process to not write it down and see it, but to imagine it in your head and say it. She said that he was more uniquely capable of doing that because he was a playwright and an actor, and so he was used to saying things out loud in a way that wouldn't have been as easy for her. Dan Stone asked her about the best advice that Sam ever gave her, and she said that he told her to not forget to save some for yourself, and so she said that that's something that she's held on to, and it's been important to her as she has had moments of doubt and moments of fear and feelings of failure, that's been something that she's been able to hold on to and make use of. How he also taught her about improvisation, and she corrected him and said, well, I've always had it in me, I just didn't know what it was. And she said, the trick of it is that if you miss a beat, you invent another. And if you stumble into the wall, just kick through it. Just don't be afraid. You're creating something new. And so a mistake can be in essence liberating and provide you the opportunity to something greater. And she does this thing when she talks. She doesn't say wrote or written. She says writ. I writ it. And it's just, that this woman has such a command of language as a poet, as a woman who's won so many awards, as a songwriter. And so for her to purposefully use that word, and she also talked about other words that she purposefully uses, which she doesn't like the word jeans, she likes dungarees. And she says jeans sounds square. Just makes me laugh. She also talked about how process is the only thing that artists own. That once the work is completed, it's out there and it's owned by the people who read it and watch it, listen to it, interact with it. But the only thing that the artist owns is their process as they get to that point. And I thought that was, it's not a unique concept, but it kind of goes a lot to speak to her work ethic and how she's always working. She doesn't call, another thing about language, she doesn't call concerts gigs. She said that just didn't feel right to her, so she calls them jobs. And it really speaks to her working class background and work ethic. And she's always working, and she's always planning something. She says that there's going to be a ton of unfinished work in her life, and it just is. That just is. And she said that artists should be beguiled by the process. I just love that word, beguiled. She also, here was something lovely. They were talking about how in so much loss in the book, how does she remain hopeful? How does she find things that are to be excited about? And she says, I really like being alive. And then she said, which I think every book lover will appreciate, she said that her anchor, in essence, has always been books. So when she was really young, her biggest excitement was to learn to read. And once she learned to read, it was reading a book. And once it was reading a book, it was realizing that there were libraries. And once she realized there were libraries, it was about realizing that there were bookstores. And once she realized there were bookstores, she realized that publishing just publishes new books, and there are always new books being written, and that keeps her going. I mean, really. Oh, she's a national treasure. And she says that she holds on to that while many things seem to be falling away, as she claimed. Speaking of what's happening in globally, what's happening in our nation, politically, all of that. Let me think. She also said that she believes that most people are good in the heart, that at the core, most people are good. And she always feels hopeful because she does not have the right to not feel hopeful. She says, I've got a great life. I'm traveling. I do what I love to do. I have no right no right to not feel hopeful. So in lieu of either signing books and having to meet people and get germs on her and throw her rest of her tour into chaos, and in lieu of a Q&A, she had her friend Tony Shalhan was there, and she said, since he's in town and he offered to come, I thought we would instead sing some songs. And so I think they were going to sing a few songs, but then decided to sing a few more. And so it was an absolute treat. She sang Neil Young after the gold rush, which, after speaking about ecological matters and what we need to do for the environment, it was really powerful, and she commands your attention. She then sang My Blakean Year, about a failure. She talked about his failure, and Blake always talked about how he struggled and all of his struggle. And she said, this is for the workers, this is for the people who do struggle, and maintain your vision and just press on. So that was great. And then she read Beneath the Southern Cross, which is her song. And then lastly, she played Pissin' in the River, which is her song. But what was great about it is that she told a little snippet about the story where she talked about the tattoo fingers shy away from me. She said that was about Sam. And ironically, she talked about the two tattoos that they got together. He had a crescent a crescent moon that he got on his hand, and she got a lightning bolt on her knee. Now, what's most interesting about this is that Sean of Shawnee Reads, she and Bert just put up a dual video where they do a tag, and she talked about Valley Myers, and Valley Myers is this artist witch, wonderful eccentric character who lived in Italy, but who hung out with a lot of the people in the left bank in Paris, and she is who tattooed Patti, I think who tattooed Patti's lightning bolt. So I wonder if she also tattooed Sam Shepard's crescent moon. Wouldn't that be interesting to know? So that's it. It was just a great evening. For me, I get revived by watching Patti and listening to Patti. I love people who live authentically and outside the bounds of what normal looks like, doing the things that they care about, doing the things that they find value in. And she's absolutely one of those people. So I'm so happy that she's still with us. I think she's a remarkable woman, and I'm always fascinated with how she thinks and what she leans to and what she's interested in. Thanks for watching. Bye.